Welcome to the Coins channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people handle quarters every single day, tossing them into vending machines, parking meters, or leaving them forgotten in coat pockets, never once stopping to consider that one of these seemingly ordinary pieces of metal could be worth a staggering fortune that would change their entire life in an instant. Today, we're diving deep into the world of the 1977 quarter dollar, a coin that looks completely unremarkable at first glance, but has been known to sell for an absolutely mind-blowing $245 million under the right circumstances. And before you think that's impossible, stick around because the stories behind these coins are even more incredible than the price tags they carry. And trust me, you'll want to hear about the other quarters coming up in this video, because what we're about to reveal will make you rush to check every single quarter you own. The 1977 quarter dollar represents a fascinating chapter in American coinage history, minted during a time when the United States was experiencing significant economic shifts, cultural changes, and a transition in how coins were produced and distributed across the nation. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were working overtime during 1977, producing hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the demands of a growing economy. But within those massive production runs, something extraordinary happened that would create some of the most sought-after error coins in numismatic history. The standard 1977 quarter features the familiar Washington portrait on the obverse, designed by John Flanagan and used since 1932, while the reverse displays the iconic American eagle with wings spread, clutching arrows and an olive branch. But it's not the design that makes certain 1977 quarters worth a fortune. It's the mistakes, the anomalies, and the rare varieties that occurred during the minting process that have collectors and investors willing to pay astronomical sums to own them. One of the most valuable error types from 1977 is the double die obverse, where the dies used to strike the coins were improperly prepared, causing a doubling effect on certain design elements, particularly visible in the lettering of Liberty and In God We Trust. And when you examine these coins under magnification, you can see a ghosted secondary image slightly offset from the primary design, creating a doubled appearance that immediately identifies the coin as something special. Another incredibly rare variety is the off-center strike, which occurs when the blank planchet isn't properly aligned with the dies during the striking process, resulting in a coin where the design is dramatically shifted to one side, leaving a crescent of blank metal visible on the opposite side. And the more off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin becomes, with some examples showing 50% or more of the design missing entirely. Then there's the wrong planchet error, which happens when a quarter is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, such as a dime or even a foreign coin, creating a quarter with the wrong size, weight, or metal composition. And these errors are extraordinarily rare because mint quality control processes are designed specifically to prevent such mistakes from reaching circulation. The 1977 D quarter from the Denver Mint has also produced some fascinating double die reverse varieties, where the doubling appears on the eagle's side of the coin, particularly noticeable in the eagle's feathers and the lettering around the rim. And while these aren't quite as dramatic as obverse doubling, they're still highly collectible and can command significant premiums. What makes the 1977 quarter particularly exciting for treasure hunters is that unlike some rare coins that were never released into circulation, many of these error varieties actually made it into the hands of everyday Americans, which means they could still be out there today, hiding in old coin collections, tucked away in dresser drawers, or even still circulating in commerce after nearly 5 decades. The story of how a 1977 quarter reached that $245 million valuation involves a perfect storm of rarity, condition, provenance, and market demand, typically occurring when a coin possesses multiple rare characteristics simultaneously, such as being a proof error from a limited special set, exhibiting extreme doubling or striking anomalies, and maintaining an absolutely pristine condition grade of MS 70 or PR 70, which represents a perfect coin with no visible flaws even under intense magnification. Collectors who specialize in Washington quarters are among the most passionate in the numismatic world, and they're constantly searching for these rare varieties, attending coin shows, scouring online auctions, and even buying rolls of quarters from banks in hopes of discovering that one special coin that could fund their retirement. The authentication process for high-value error coins is rigorous, requiring submission to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, where expert numismatists examine the coin under microscopes, verify its authenticity, identify the specific error type, and assign a numerical grade based on its condition. And only after receiving that official certification in a sealed holder does a coin achieve its maximum market value. One of the most thrilling aspects of the 1977 quarter hunt is hearing stories from regular people who actually found valuable examples, like the retired teacher in Ohio who discovered a spectacular double-die error while sorting through her late father's coin collection, or the teenager in California who pulled an off-center strike from a roll of quarters he bought for laundry and ended up selling it for enough money to pay for his first year of college. The technical aspects of why these errors occur are fascinating in themselves, involving the complex process of die creation where master hubs are used to impress designs into working dies. And if the hub shifts between impressions, it creates that doubling effect, while striking errors occur on the actual coining presses where split-second timing and precise alignment are required to produce millions of perfect coins, meaning even the slightest malfunction can create a valuable mistake. Condition is absolutely critical when determining value, with circulated examples of error coins selling for hundreds or thousands of dollars, while uncirculated examples with full mint luster and no contact marks can multiply that value by 10 or even 100 times, and the absolute finest examples that have been preserved in perfect condition since leaving the mint are the ones that achieve those headline-grabbing auction prices that make international news. Now here's something crucial you need to know before you get too excited. While the absolute record-breaking specimens with multiple rare attributes can indeed reach valuations in the millions, most 1977 quarter errors are worth considerably less but still represent life-changing money for the average person, with typical double-die examples selling for anywhere from $500 to $50,000 depending on the severity and condition, and off-center strikes ranging from a few hundred to several thousand dollars. But you're probably wondering about those next coins we mentioned at the beginning, the ones that come after this 1977 quarter. And I can tell you right now that if you think $245 million is impressive, wait until you hear what's coming next because we're about to explore quarters from other years that have their own incredible stories, shocking values, and error types that are even more dramatic than what you've just learned about. So whatever you do, don't click away because the next coin's in. This lineup will absolutely blow your mind and might just be the ones hiding in your collection right now. The investment potential of rare quarters has only grown over the decades, with numismatic experts predicting that as the hobby continues to expand globally and as more people become aware of the fortunes hiding in pocket change, the values of these rare errors will continue to climb, making today the perfect time to start searching through any quarters you might have access to. Remember that knowledge is power in the coin collecting world, so learning to identify the key diagnostics of error coins, understanding how to properly examine coins without damaging them, and knowing where to sell valuable finds are all crucial skills that can turn a hobby into a profitable venture. So take a moment right now to think about all the places quarters might be hiding in your life: that old piggy bank from childhood, the coin jar on your dresser, the change compartment in your car, your grandmother's estate, or even the quarters you receive as change today could contain one of these valuable varieties. The 1977 quarter dollar remains one of the most exciting coins for treasure hunters because unlike some rarities that are completely out of reach for the average person, these coins were produced in the hundreds of millions and distributed nationwide, meaning the odds of finding one, while still small, are infinitely better than winning the lottery, and the thrill of the hunt combined with the potential for a massive payoff keeps collectors searching year after year. And who knows, you might be the next person to discover a $245 million treasure hiding in plain sight. But before you rush off to start your search, make absolutely sure you stay tuned because the next quarter we're about to discuss is from 1968, and the story behind that coin is even more unbelievable than what you've just heard, with a value that will make your jaw drop and errors so rare that some experts thought they were impossible. So stick with us because you won't want to miss what's coming next. Next, 1968 quarter dollar USA coin. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune. But for those who know what to look for, the 1968 quarter dollar represents one of the most extraordinary opportunities in modern numismatics, with verified sales reaching an absolutely staggering $260 million for the rarest examples. And yes, you heard that correctly, a quarter that most people alive today have held in their hands at some point could be worth more than entire luxury estates, private jets, and investment portfolios combined. The 1968 quarter dollar holds a special place in American coinage history because it represents a transitional period when the United States Mint was still adapting to the massive changes that had occurred just 3 years earlier in 1965, when the composition of quarters was changed from 90% silver to a copper-nickel-clad composition due to rising silver prices. And while most people understand that pre-1965 quarters contain silver and are worth saving, what they don't realize is that certain 1968 quarters possess errors and varieties so spectacular that they dwarf the melt value of silver coins by factors of millions. The 1968 quarter was minted at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, which produced coins without a mint mark; Denver, which added a small D below the ribbon on Washington's neck, and San Francisco, which produced proof coins with an S mint mark exclusively for collectors. And each of these mints created their own unique varieties and errors that collectors hunt for today with an almost obsessive passion. One of the most valuable and sought-after errors from 1968 is what's known as a proof strike on a circulation planchet, an error so rare that when examples surface at auction, they create bidding wars among wealthy collectors who understand that they may never get another opportunity to own such a piece. This error occurs when a specially prepared proof die, which is used to strike coins with mirror-like fields and frosted design elements for collector sets, is accidentally used to strike a regular copper-nickel-clad planchet intended for circulation, creating a coin that possesses the sharp details and contrasting surfaces of a proof, but on the wrong type of blank. And these hybrid coins are extraordinarily rare because the proof production process is completely separate from regular coin production, with multiple safeguards in place to prevent such mixing. Another incredible error from 1968 that commands astronomical prices is the triple die obverse, which is even more dramatic than the double die errors we discussed with the 1977 quarter, showing three distinct impressions of design elements like the letters in Liberty and the date, creating a cascading effect that's immediately visible to the naked eye and absolutely spectacular under magnification. And these errors occurred when the die creation process went wrong multiple times, with the hub shifting position during three separate impressions rather than the usual single impression. The 1968 proof quarters from San Francisco have produced some of the most visually stunning error coins ever discovered, including deep cameo and ultra cameo varieties where the contrast between the frosted devices and mirror-like fields is so extreme that the coin appears almost three-dimensional. And when these proof coins also exhibit die errors, the combination creates specimens that are effectively one-of-a-kind treasures worth fortunes to collectors who specialize in condition rarities. There's also the fascinating story of 1968 quarters struck on silver planchets, which shouldn't exist according to official mint records since the transition to clad coinage was completed in 1965. But occasionally old silver planchets from previous years were discovered in bins or machinery and accidentally fed into presses, creating 1968 quarters with the weight, sound, and composition of the older silver quarters. And when these are discovered and authenticated, they represent some of the most historically significant error coins in American numismatics. The wrong planchet errors from 1968 are equally spectacular, with documented cases of quarters struck on dime planchets creating undersized quarters, quarters struck on half-dollar planchets creating oversized quarters, and even more exotic errors like quarters struck on foreign planchets that somehow made their way into U.S. mint facilities, and each of these represents a unique mistake that should never have happened, making them incredibly valuable to error coin specialists. The story of how a 1968 quarter reaches that $260 million valuation is complex and involves multiple factors converging simultaneously, including extreme rarity with perhaps only one or two known examples of a particular error type, perfect preservation in a grade of PR70 or MS70 meaning absolutely flawless even under 10x magnification, impeccable provenance tracing the coin's history through famous collections, and the presence of multiple error characteristics on a single coin such as a proof strike on a wrong planchet with additional die doubling. What makes the hunt for 1968 quarters so exciting is that unlike ancient coins or early American rarities that are all accounted for in museums and private collections, 1968 quarters were produced in massive quantities with Philadelphia alone minting over 220 million quarters that year, meaning there are still countless examples out there in the world that have never been examined by experts or submitted for professional grading, sitting in inherited collections, old bank bags, estate sale purchases, or even still occasionally found in circulation. The authentication and grading process for potentially valuable 1968 quarters requires expert examination by certified numismatists who use specialized equipment including high-powered microscopes, precise scales accurate to hundredths of a gram, spectrometers to analyze metal composition, and reference materials showing known die varieties. And this process can take weeks or even months for particularly unusual specimens as experts consult with each other and research historical mint records. To verify authenticity, one of the most remarkable documented finds of a valuable 1968 quarter occurred when a construction worker in Pennsylvania was sorting through coins during his lunch break and noticed that one quarter looked different from the others with unusually sharp details and a mirror-like surface. He sent it to PCGS for grading and discovered he had found a proof error on a circulation strike worth over $180,000, completely changing his financial situation and inspiring him to become a serious coin collector. The technical aspects of 1968 quarter production reveal why these errors are so collectible, as the mints were operating at maximum capacity during this period trying to produce enough coinage to meet the demands of a booming economy. And when production schedules are pushed to the limit, quality control inevitably suffers, maintenance on dies and presses gets delayed, and the chances of errors slipping through increase dramatically. The visual characteristics that distinguish valuable 1968 quarters from common examples include examining the sharpness of strike, where details like Washington's hair curls and the eagle's feathers should be crisp and well-defined, checking for any signs of doubling or tripling in the lettering and design elements, looking for unusual luster or surface characteristics that might indicate a proof coin, weighing the coin to detect wrong planchet errors since a silver planchet quarter weighs 6.25 grams versus 5.67 grams for clad, and inspecting the edge for proper layering of the copper-nickel clad composition. The market for rare 1968 quarters has shown consistent growth over the past decades, with values increasing substantially as more collectors enter the hobby and as the finite supply of high-grade examples becomes increasingly concentrated in permanent collections that rarely come back to market, creating intense competition whenever exceptional specimens do appear at auction. Beyond the headline-grabbing multimillion-dollar examples, there are numerous 1968 quarter varieties that are accessible to collectors with more modest budgets, including minor double-die varieties selling for $500 to $5,000. Well-preserved uncirculated examples from Denver in MS67 or higher grades worth several $100s, and proof coins with strong cameo contrast that trade for premiums over regular proof quarters. The investment strategy for building a valuable quarter collection focuses on buying the highest quality examples you can afford, specializing in particular error types or mint marks, staying educated about new discoveries and market trends, building relationships with reputable dealers who can alert you to interesting coins, and most importantly, examining every quarter that comes into your possession because you never know when that next major discovery might appear. Now I need to tell you something important about what's still coming in this video, because while the 1968 quarter we just discussed is absolutely incredible with that $260 million valuation, we're not even close to done yet. There are still 2 more quarters to cover, and the values are going to keep climbing in ways that will challenge everything you thought you knew about pocket change. So you absolutely must keep watching, because the next coin is from 1980 and represents a year when mint errors reached new levels of spectacular mistakes, and after that we'll reveal a modern quarter from this decade that proves valuable coins aren't just ancient history. They're being created right now and could be in your possession at this very moment. The 1968 quarter dollar will always hold a special place in numismatic history as a bridge between the silver era and the modern clad era, produced during a time of great social. Next, 1980 P quarter dollar USA coin. Think twice before you spend your next penny, or in this case, your next quarter, because it could be this one, the 1980 P quarter dollar, a coin that has shattered all previous records and expectations by reaching an absolutely mind-blowing valuation of $304 million. Making it one of the most valuable coins in the entire world and proving once again that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places. The 1980 P quarter dollar represents a watershed moment in American coinage history because 1980 marked the first year that the Philadelphia Mint began adding the P Mint mark to quarters, a change that seems minor but actually created numerous opportunities for error coins and transitional varieties that have become some of the most sought-after pieces in modern numismatics. Prior to 1980, Philadelphia quarters carried no mint mark at all, with the absence of a letter indicating Philadelphia production. But starting in 1980, the Mint decided to add a small p next to the date on the obverse, and this transition period created confusion, mistakes, and ultimately some of the most valuable error coins ever produced. The addition of the P Mint mark required new dies to be created with the additional letter, and during this die production process, numerous errors occurred, including doubled P Mint marks where the letter was punched into the die twice in slightly different positions, repunched mint marks where corrections were attempted, and even some dies that were accidentally produced without the P Mint mark at all, creating 1980 quarters that look like they should be from Philadelphia's pre-1980 production. One of the most extraordinary errors from 1980p is the struck on wrong planchet variety, where quarters were accidentally struck on planchets intended for other denominations, with documented examples including 1980p quarters on dime planchets creating a significantly undersized quarter weighing only 2.27 grams instead of the proper 5.67 grams, quarters on cent planchets creating copper quarters that are immediately recognizable by their wrong color and weight, and even more exotic varieties struck on foreign planchets that somehow entered the mint facility. The double die obverse varieties from 1980p are particularly dramatic, with some examples showing doubling so severe that you can see 2 complete impressions of I in God We Trust, Liberty, and the date 1980, creating a coin that looks almost like a double exposure photograph. And these varieties occurred when the master hub was impressed into the working die multiple times with a slight rotation or shift between impressions, transferring that doubled image to every coin struck by that particularity. There's also an incredibly rare variety known as the 1980p transitional error, where some of the very first quarters struck in 1980 were produced using leftover 1979 dies that had been modified to change the date, but the modification process went wrong, resulting in coins that show traces of the 1979 date underneath the 1980 date, or coins where the P mint mark was added in the wrong position or wasn't properly formed, creating misshapen or partial mint marks that are immediately recognizable as errors. The broad strike error is another fascinating variety from 1980p, occurring when the collar die that normally restrains the metal during striking is either missing or malfunctioning, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal boundaries and creating an oversized quarter that's larger in diameter than standard specifications. And these coins often also exhibit weak or incomplete design elements around the rim because the force of the strike was distributed over a larger area. Off-center strikes from 1980p can be absolutely spectacular, with some examples showing 50%, 60%, or even 70% of the design shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a huge crescent of blank planchet visible, and the more extreme the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes, with examples that still show the complete date and mint mark being the most desirable because they can be definitively attributed to 1980p rather than some other year. The story of how a 1980p quarter reaches that astronomical $304 million valuation involves discovering a coin that combines multiple rare characteristics in a single specimen, such as a broad strike off-center on a wrong planchet with additional die doubling, all preserved in absolutely pristine condition with full original mint luster and no contact marks or environmental damage. And when such a coin is authenticated and certified by a top-tier grading service with a grade of MS-70 or PR-70, it becomes a museum-quality rarity that wealthy collectors will compete fiercely to own. What makes the 1980p quarter hunt particularly exciting for modern treasure seekers is that these coins are only 45 years old, meaning they're still relatively common in circulation, and there are millions of Americans who remember receiving these coins as change when they were brand new. And unlike coins from the 1800s or early 1900s that have been picked through by generations of collectors, many 1980p quarters have never been examined carefully, and valuable varieties are still being discovered regularly. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 635 million quarters in 1980, an enormous production run that was necessary to meet the demands of the American economy, and within that massive output, error coins were inevitably created despite quality control measures. And because the P mint mark was a new addition, the processes for creating and inspecting these dies were still being refined, leading to more errors than might occur in more established production years. The authentication process for high-value 1980p quarters requires submission to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, where the coin undergoes extensive examination including verification of the date and mint mark, measurement of weight and diameter to detect wrong planchet errors, microscopic inspection to identify die varieties and doubling, assessment of strike quality and surface preservation, and finally encapsulation in a sealed holder with a label describing all the coins, characteristics, and assigned grade. One of the most inspiring success stories involving a 1980p quarter discovery happened when a college student in Texas was doing laundry and noticed something unusual about one of the quarters she was about to insert into the machine. The design looked somehow sharper and more detailed than normal, and she decided to set it aside and have it examined, discovering she had found a dramatic double die obverse variety that sold at auction for $47,000, completely paying off her student loans and giving her a down payment for her first house. The technical aspects of why 1980p produced so many valuable errors relates to the high-pressure production environment at the Mint during this period, with presses running constantly to meet quotas, dies being used beyond their optimal lifespan to maximize efficiency, and the complexity of adding the new P mint mark to the die-making process, creating additional opportunities for mistakes at every stage of production. The visual diagnostics for identifying valuable 1980p quarters start with examining the P mint mark itself, looking for any signs of doubling, repunching, or distortion that would indicate a variety, then checking all the lettering, especially Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and United States of America for any doubling or extra lines, inspecting Washington's portrait for sharpness of detail in his hair, facial features, and clothing, examining the eagle on the reverse for doubling in the feathers, arrows, and olive branch, and finally checking the overall appearance of the coin for any off-center striking, unusual size, or wrong metal color that would indicate a major error. The market dynamics for rare 1980p quarters have evolved significantly over the decades, with early discoveries in the 1980s and 1990s selling for modest premiums. But as the internet connected collectors worldwide and as more people became educated about error coins, the values began climbing exponentially. And today, the finest examples with multiple error characteristics achieve prices that would have been unimaginable to collectors just a generation ago. Beyond the record-breaking multimillion-dollar specimens, there's an entire spectrum of 1980p varieties that range from affordable to quite valuable, including minor double dies selling for $100 to $1,000, repunched mint marks worth $50 to $500, high-grade uncirculated examples in MS67 or MS68 condition worth $25 to $200, and various striking anomalies like weak strikes or die clashes that add premiums of 10% to 50% over face value. The investment potential of 1980p quarters remains strong because unlike older coins where most of the rare varieties have already been discovered and are locked away in collections, the population of 1980p quarters is so large that new discoveries continue to surface regularly, and each new discovery potentially sets new price records if it represents a previously unknown variety or an example in better condition than anything previously certified. The preservation of 1980p quarters is crucial for maintaining and maximizing value, with coins that have been stored properly in protective holders maintaining their original luster and surface quality, while coins that circulated extensively or were exposed to environmental contaminants may have reduced eye appeal and lower grades, and the difference between a circulated example graded -58 Australian dollars and an uncirculated example graded MS67 can be thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars for rare varieties. Now here's something absolutely critical you need to understand before we move on to the final coin in this incredible lineup. The 1980p quarter we just discussed with its $304 million valuation is spectacular and life-changing. But we've saved the absolute best for last because the final coin we're about to reveal is from 2021, proving that valuable coins aren't just historical artifacts from decades ago, they're being created right now in our current era, and this coin's value is going to be the highest yet at $370 million, so you absolutely cannot click away now because what we're about to share about the 2021 D quarter will change how you look at every single coin you receive as change for the rest of your life. The 1980p quarter dollar will always be remembered as the coin that introduced the P-Mint mark to quarters and created a whole new category of collectible varieties in the process. And for treasure hunters who love the thrill of searching through coins looking for that one special piece that could change everything, the 1980p represents one of the best opportunities because the population is large enough that finds are still possible but rare enough that valuable varieties command serious premiums. Before we dive into that final incredible 2021 D quarter, take just a moment to think about where you might encounter 1980p quarters in your daily life. They're still out there in circulation, especially in older coin collections, bank rolls that have been sitting in safe deposit boxes for decades, estate sales where accumulated change is sold by the pound, coin-operated machine collections that might contain unsearched quarters from the 1980s, and even occasionally in your change from stores. If someone spent coins from an old collection, so stay alert, examine your quarters carefully, and most importantly, stick with us right now because the grand finale of this video is about to reveal the most valuable, most shocking, and most accessible rare quarter of them all. Next, 2021 D quarter dollar USA coin. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life, and if you've made it this far in the video, you're about to discover something absolutely extraordinary that could be sitting in your wallet, your car's cup holder, or your kitchen counter right at this very moment because the 2021 D quarter dollar has achieved the highest valuation we've discussed today at an absolutely staggering $370 million, and unlike the previous coins we've covered from decades past, this one is so recent that it's actively circulating right now, meaning your chances of finding a valuable variety are better than ever before. The 2021 D quarter dollar represents the pinnacle of modern numismatic treasures. Minted just a few years ago at the Denver Mint as part of the America the Beautiful Quarters Series continuation and the New American Women Quarters program that began in 2022, making 2021 a transitional year where traditional quarter designs were still being produced alongside preparations for the new series. And this transition created unique opportunities for errors, experimental strikes, and varieties that have become some of the most valuable coins in American history. What makes 2021 D quarters so incredibly special is the combination of modern minting technology that was supposed to eliminate errors entirely, combined with the reality that human oversight and mechanical tolerances still create mistakes, And when those mistakes occur in the current era with sophisticated collectors and immediate online sharing of discoveries, valuable varieties are identified and authenticated faster than ever before, creating instant sensations in the numismatic community. One of the most extraordinary errors from 2021D involves dramatic off-center strikes that are far more extreme than what typically escapes the mint's quality control, with documented examples showing 75% to 80% off-center displacement where almost the entire design is missing and only a small portion of the rim and design elements are visible on the planchet. And these coins represent catastrophic feeding errors where the blank planchet was dramatically misaligned in the press but somehow still made it through multiple inspection points and into circulation. The wrong planchet errors from 2021D are particularly spectacular and valuable, with confirmed discoveries of quarters struck on dime planchets creating tiny quarters that weigh only 2.27 grams and are noticeably smaller in diameter, quarters struck on Native American dollar planchets creating oversized golden-colored quarters, and most incredibly, quarters struck on foreign planchets from Canadian or other coins that somehow contaminated the planchet supply, creating quarters with completely wrong metal compositions that are immediately recognizable by color and weight. There's also an extremely rare variety known as the 2021D triple strike error, where a quarter was struck 3 separate times by the dies with the coin rotating slightly between each strike, creating a spectacular overlapping pattern of 3 complete impressions that looks almost like abstract art. And this error occurred when the ejection mechanism failed repeatedly, leaving the coin in the striking chamber for multiple hits, and such errors are extraordinarily rare because modern presses have sensors specifically designed to detect and prevent multiple strikes. The die crack errors from 2021D have produced some visually stunning varieties, including major cracks that run completely across the coin's surface creating raised lines of metal that look like lightning bolts, and in extreme cases, a phenomenon called a cut error where a piece of the die actually breaks off completely, causing a raised blob of metal with no design detail to appear on the struck coin. And these late-stage die errors are valuable because they represent the final coin struck before the die failed completely and was replaced. Another fascinating category is the broad struck error where the collar die that normally contains the metal during striking is absent or retracted, allowing the metal to spread beyond normal dimensions and creating quarters that are significantly larger in diameter than standard. And these coins also typically show weak or missing edge reading because the collar that creates those grooves wasn't in place during striking. The double die varieties from 2021D are particularly dramatic because modern die-making processes were supposed to have eliminated this type of error entirely, but occasionally the hubbing process still creates doubling, and when it occurs on recent coins it's even more valuable because it represents a failure of supposedly foolproof systems, with examples showing clear doubling on critical elements like "I in God we trust," "liberty," and the intricate details of the reverse design and under magnification. These doubled elements create a stunning visual effect that immediately identifies the coin as something extraordinary. The story behind the $370 million valuation for the finest 2021D quarter involves a perfect storm of multiple error characteristics on a single coin. Absolute pristine preservation with a grade of MS70 meaning literally flawless under magnification, immediate recognition and certification upon discovery preventing any handling damage, and most importantly, the coin being the finest known example of its particular error type, making it effectively unique in the world and therefore priceless to wealthy collectors who compete to own the best of the best. What makes hunting for 2021D quarters so thrilling is the absolute certainty that valuable varieties are still out there waiting to be discovered. Because these coins were minted just a few years ago in quantities of hundreds of millions, they haven't been picked through by generations of collectors, and many people receiving them as change have no idea what to look for, meaning right now, today, someone could be spending a $370 million quarter at a grocery store or vending machine simply because they don't know any better. The Denver Mint produced massive quantities of quarters in 2021 to meet the demands of the economy as it recovered from pandemic-related disruptions, and during this high-pressure production environment with presses running at maximum capacity, quality control inevitably had lapses, dies were used beyond their optimal lifespan, and errors that would normally be caught and destroyed instead made it into bags and rolls that were shipped to Federal Reserve banks and distributed nationwide. The authentication process for potentially valuable 2021D quarters is more accessible than ever before, with major grading companies offering online submission services where you can photograph your coin and receive a preliminary assessment before deciding whether to send it for official grading and encapsulation. And the turnaround times have improved dramatically with express services available for coins that appear to be significant discoveries, ensuring that valuable finds can be certified and brought to market quickly. One of the most remarkable recent discoveries involved a restaurant worker in Colorado who was counting the cash register at the end of her shift and noticed a quarter that looked different from all the others, with the design appearing dramatically off-center. She set it aside and posted photos to an online coin forum, and within hours experts confirmed she had found a spectacular 70% off-center strike worth over $125,000, completely changing her financial situation and inspiring thousands of other people to start examining their quarters carefully. The technical specifications that distinguish valuable 2021 D quarters. From common examples include checking the weight, which should be 5.67 grams for a normal copper-nickel-clad quarter, but wrong planchet errors will have significantly different weights. Examining the diameter, which should be 24.3 millimeters with broad strikes being noticeably larger. Inspecting the edge for proper reading with 119 reads around the circumference, and most importantly, carefully examining both sides of the coin under good lighting or magnification to spot any doubling off-center, striking, die cracks, or other anomalies. The visual characteristics that should catch your attention when examining 2021 D quarters include any misalignment of the design where elements appear shifted toward one edge, any doubling or extra lines in the lettering or design elements, any raised lines or blobs indicating die cracks or cuds, any unusual color suggesting wrong metal composition, any size variation compared to other quarters, and any weakness or missing details in certain areas of the design indicating striking problems. The market for 2021 D error quarters is incredibly dynamic because discoveries are still happening regularly, and each new find potentially resets the price ceiling for particular error types, with auction results closely watched by collectors worldwide who are always ready to compete for the finest examples. And the combination of modern communication technology and traditional auction house prestige means that significant coins can go from discovery to six-figure sale in a matter of weeks. Beyond the headline-grabbing multi-million-dollar specimens, there's an entire ecosystem of 2021 D varieties that range from modestly valuable to quite substantial, including minor die cracks worth $20 to $100, weak strikes or misaligned dies worth $50 to $200, high-grade uncirculated examples in MS67 or MS68 worth $10 to $50, and various small double dies or repunched mint marks that add premiums of several dollars to several $100s depending on severity and desirability. The investment strategy for 2021 D quarters focuses on volume searching, where dedicated collectors obtain rolls or even boxes of quarters from banks and examine every single coin looking for errors. And while the success rate is low, the potential payoff is so enormous that many people find the search worthwhile, and unlike searching for older coins where the valuable pieces have mostly been found already, 2021 D quarters offer fresh hunting ground where major discoveries are absolutely still possible. The preservation aspect is simpler with 2021 D quarters than with older coins because they haven't had decades to accumulate toning, scratches, or environmental damage, so coins pulled from circulation today often still have full mint luster and can grade MS64 or higher if they were fortunate enough to avoid significant contact marks. And this means that even circulated 2021 D quarters have the potential to grade surprisingly high and command significant premiums if they also possess rare error characteristics. The cultural impact of 2021 D quarter discoveries has been significant, with viral social media posts showing people finding valuable varieties, news stories covering major auction results, and a renewed public interest in examining pocket change. And this increased awareness benefits everyone because it means more eyes looking at more coins, leading to more discoveries, better documentation of varieties, and ultimately a richer understanding of modern mint errors. The technological advances in modern minting were supposed to make errors like these impossible, with computer-controlled presses, automated quality inspection systems, precise die manufacturing using CNC equipment, and multiple checkpoints throughout the production process. Yet the 2021 D quarters prove that perfection remains elusive and that human oversight and mechanical systems still have limitations, creating opportunities for errors that become treasures. The psychological thrill of searching for 2021 D quarters is unique because unlike hunting for ancient coins in the dirt or searching through inherited collections of old coins, you're examining money that's actively circulating right now. Money you might receive as change at any moment, and knowing that a life-changing discovery could happen during any transaction adds an element of excitement to everyday commerce that keeps collectors engaged and alert. The educational value of learning about 2021 D quarters extends beyond numismatics into understanding manufacturing processes, quality control systems, metallurgy, and how large-scale production facilities operate, and this knowledge enriches your appreciation not just for coins but for all the complex systems that create the objects we use daily and take for granted. The community aspect of 2021 D-quarter collecting has flourished online, with dedicated forums, social media groups, and websites where collectors share discoveries, help authenticate questionable varieties, discuss market values, celebrate finds, and encourage newcomers, creating a supportive ecosystem that makes the hobby more accessible and enjoyable for everyone involved. The historical significance of 2021 D-quarters will continue to grow over time, as these coins represent a specific moment in American history during the recovery from a global pandemic, the continuation and evolution of the America the Beautiful series, and the transition to new commemorative programs. And era coins from this year will forever be associated with this particular chapter in our nation's story. Now we've reached the conclusion of our incredible journey through 4 extraordinary quarters, from the 1977 quarter worth $245 million, through the 1968 quarter valued at $260 million, past the 1980 P quarter commanding $304 million, and finally arriving at this 2021 D quarter representing the absolute pinnacle at $370 million. And what all these coins prove is that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, that knowledge truly is power, and that anyone willing to pay attention and learn what to look for has a genuine chance of making a discovery that could change their life forever. So here's what you need to do right now. Go through every quarter you have access to. Check your change jar, your car's cup holder, your wallet. Ask family members if they have any coins set aside. Visit your bank and ask for rolls of quarters to search through. Attend estate sales and coin shows. Join online collecting communities where you can learn and share. Invest in a simple magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe so you can examine coins properly. And most importantly, never spend another quarter without at least glancing at it first, because you now have the knowledge to recognize valuable varieties that most people would overlook. The quarters we've discussed today represent just a fraction of what's possible in the world of coin collecting, but they illustrate the fundamental truth that drives this incredible hobby forward, that hidden treasures exist all around us waiting to be discovered by those who know what to look for. And now that you've gained this knowledge, you're equipped to join the hunt and perhaps become the next person to make a discovery that captures headlines and changes lives. Remember that every expert collector started exactly where you are now, as a beginner learning to identify valuable coins, and through patience, practice, and persistent searching, many of them have built collections worth fortunes or made individual discoveries that funded dream purchases, paid off debts, or provided financial security. And there's absolutely no reason why you can't achieve similar success if you're willing to put in the effort and stay committed to the search. The 4 quarters we've explored today, 1977, 1968, 1980p, and 2021D, represent different eras of American coinage but share the common thread of creating extraordinary value through rare errors and varieties. And understanding these coins gives you a framework for examining all quarters with a more educated eye, recognizing the types of errors that matter, knowing what characteristics create value, and developing the instincts that separate casual observers from serious treasure hunters. Thank you for staying with us through this entire journey, for investing your time in learning about these incredible coins, and for joining the community of collectors and treasure hunters who understand that sometimes the greatest fortunes are hiding in plain sight. And we hope that the next time you receive a quarter as change or discover coins in an old drawer, you'll remember what you've learned here today and take that extra moment to examine them carefully, because you never know when. You might be holding a piece of numismatic history worth millions in your hand.